If you have a seat by you, let a couple people know. Okay. Good morning. My name is Tony Wright. I'm going to be the moderator for this session, which basically means I'm not going to be doing a whole lot. I'm going to introduce you to David. David actually, ironically, works for me at Right IMC in Dallas. And he's our director of paid search. And he's going to talk about negative keyword strategies. And I think you're all going to really like it. We will have time for questions at the end. So if you have a question, write it down. I'll come and ask you, or I'll come and give you the microphone. Just wait till we get the microphone because we are virtual today as well. So there are some people trying to hear, and if you talk just in the room, other virtual people can't hear. So if you do need to talk, raise your hand, I'll bring you a microphone. And without further ado, I'm going to turn it over to David.
Hi, as he said, I'm David Ogletree. I've been working in paid search for almost 20 years now. I started in April of 2003. I started off doing SEO and pay-per-click. I started off using, if you've been around, you would remember Overture. We used Overture, and Google wasn't even much of a thing back in 2019. Yahoo was kind of the much bigger than Google at the time, and so we were doing Overture, and you could get penny clicks back then. And we wanted to be number one, and so what we would do is we'd have an automated program that would just automatically move the mouse and click something, because you could always just say raise my bid to 1 cent above the next guy, and you could just do that all day long. And so that was just kind of early pay-per-click. And then and so it was, over the years things have changed quite a bit. And one of the big things we're going to cover today is how they've changed in the negative keywords. And if you've been watching the news or been doing pay-per-click for any time now, you notice that things have changed quite dramatically in the last few years. Negative keywords, they've become the most important thing of our job now. It used to be, it's always been important, but now because of how they're doing things, we just spend a lot of our time now working on negative keywords. And one of the things that I've worked on and tried to streamline that and make it easier, and these are tactics that I've used for years as well. They're not new to me necessarily, but they're more and more important now. So why are we having to do this now? So if you'll remember, 2014, they created the close variants. They became mandatory. Before that, you could actually check a box and turn on close variants, and it was an option. Then it became mandatory, and then in March 2017, exact match became no longer exact match, and then in 2021 they got rid of the modified broad, where you put the plus symbol in front of your keywords, and so then all of a sudden you have all of these. You're showing up for everything in the world. Like if you bid on window shades, you could also show up for Hunter Douglas. It was really difficult. And then they merged it. So now we don't have phrase match or modified broad. We have both. So now when you create your phrase matches, it's also modified broad. So it's not, those two words don't have to be together anymore. In the old days, if you did red shoes as a phrase match, red shoes had to be together, but there could be stuff before and after, but now it could be in the middle. And so that's one of the biggest reasons that negative keywords have become so important nowadays. It reduces your costs by using negative keywords. Obviously, we know that, you don't want to waste clicks. I mean, that's the biggest cost, in pay-per-click is wasted clicks. One of the biggest costs. Obviously reducing costs, reduce your cost per lead, and increases your quality score. So, if you're showing up for, like I said before, you bid on window shades and you show up for Hunter Douglas, you don't have that in your ad. Or let's say bathing suits or swimming suits. So you bid on bathing suits, but the ad shows up for swimming suits. You don't have swimming in your ad. So it can reduce your quality score. Of course, with responsive ads, you can have a bathing suit title and a swimming suit title and stuff. So there's always different ways to do this, but a lot of times you would want to, create a separate ad group in a situation like that, so that, people searching for a certain keyword, I like to say when someone goes to Google and types in something, even if it's not a question, it is a question and you're answering that question. And so our ads need to reflect what people are asking for, and that negative keywords aren't always for just getting rid of them entirely. We have the different levels. So you do it on the ad group level, and you can have swimming suits go to one and bathing suits go to the other. You put it, in the swimming ad group, you put bathing, and vice versa. And also it helps with you have budgets. Not everyone has $1 million a month to spend. So the more you reduce the wasted clicks, the more you're not only reducing cost, you're allowing other keywords to get in there, because you're wasting money and time on the keywords you don't want. And so it's a good idea to use these strategies so that you can actually make room for the good keywords that you want and not show up for the bad ones. What not to do. So, I've been doing this, like I said, for 19 years, and I've audited, hundreds of accounts. And I don't think I've ever started looking at a new account or an old account that, where they've spent much time on the negative keywords. Oftentimes they're not only not doing, they're either doing a bad job or they're doing nothing. And so definitely nothing is the worst you could do. And then the next thing I see, the most common thing I see in accounts, is people just go and I don't like this one, I don't like this one. They check all the boxes and they hit add. And then they just add, 5 long exact match negative keywords. That is definitely a waste of time, because oftentimes it's like 5 or 6 words. You're probably never even going to see that negative keyword, that search query ever again. So it's a good idea to avoid wasting time. That's what I'm talking about today, is just stop wasting time on things that don't have any value. If you put in a negative keyword for something that is never going to be typed in again, you just wasted time. Exclude permanently. There are some words that are obvious, like if you don't do that thing, you exclude them permanently. That is the thing to do. But oftentimes you need to kind of do an audit of your account every so often, and maybe do an experiment or create a separate campaign and bring back some of those negative keywords and see if they've changed. You may have done a report and you say, well, this keyword always sucks. It's been really bad, but that was a year ago or 2 or 5 years ago sometimes. What if it works now? Or what if you took over an account and somebody else had a reason they did it and you don't agree with that, and they didn't leave you notes, So it's a good idea to kind of audit your account, audit your negative keywords, and maybe revisit some of them, see if they're still bad. Not everybody has the budget to do that, but it can definitely, bring you, especially if you have a highly optimized account and you want to get more stuff out of it. You might want to, you're like, well, I'm spending as much budget as humanly possible and Google's not spending anymore. So maybe bring back some of those negative keywords and see, well, maybe they're not so bad in this particular situation. Exclude without research. It's kind of the same thing I was just saying. Make sure you got a good reason to exclude something. Sometimes something seems so obvious you want to exclude it, but you haven't really done the research. You haven't really looked at stats. You haven't looked at the past. You haven't looked to see how well it does. I'm always in my search query report, which of course is not full anymore. It's only showing us a percentage of our keywords now, which makes it very difficult to do some of that kind of research. But it helps to just constantly research and figure out what are the best negative keywords. So the technique that I use, I call it the lowest common denominator. You use the least number of words in a negative. Most of them will be a single keyword. It's rare for me to use 3 or more in a negative keywords. Oftentimes I'll do 2 words for like a phrase match for something that's, clearly I want one of those words, but not both of them. But it really helps, because oftentimes what you're doing is that you're, instead of doing, 3 or 4 words, even a phrase match with 3 or 4 words, as before I said, don't do the exact. But if you just do 3 or 4 words with the phrase match, you're limiting yourself. There's a whole lot of keywords that you could eliminate. And part of the problem is, we talked about you can't see the search queries as many as, you can't see all of the search queries. I was looking at an ad group the other day, I had search queries in a lot of the ad groups, but this one ad group had like 7 conversions. In the other, it showed me no keywords, and I had 7 conversions. So a lot of times you don't know, especially now when you don't know the keywords. So what you want to do is, try to use these techniques to, you just add 1 word or 2 words, and then you've eliminated thousands of possible keywords that you don't want to see. Instead of just 5 or 10 or 20, you're literally eliminating thousands of keywords. One of the things I do in some of my accounts is, I'm trying to remove competitors. Like my client doesn't want to show up they do cleaning, house cleaning. They don't want to show up for Joe's house cleaning and Sue's house cleaning. It took time. I constantly added Joe and Sue and all these different things. But now I hardly have to do it anymore because it's just eliminated all of that. I do maybe 1 or 2 a week now when I was doing 5 or 6 a day at the beginning. So it just makes it so much easier. This blocks a lot more queries and saves time, blocks the other keywords, like I said before. Sorry. Example would be a search query, Lowe's 30-inch blinds, and that goes to the competitors. My window treatment client doesn't want to show up for Lowe's because that's clearly wasted time and money. So the right way would be put in Lowe's. The wrong way to put Lowe's 30-inch blinds, because you've just eliminated only that keyword and nothing else. I would have to, there's tons and tons of Lowe's keywords in there, and I would have to do, it would be an unending process of adding them that way. But if I add Lowe's, boom, I'm done. There's 1,000 keywords gone. It's so much better to do it that way. Another example would be use cheap red shoes signed by Michael Jordan. So you only sell new, expensive, unsigned shoes. So the lowest common denominator was get rid of used, get rid of cheap, and get rid of signed. You've just eliminated a tremendous number of keywords by doing it that way. So one of the things that you can do to create and build negative keyword lists is to understand how close variants work. And so you can, instead of being reactive, you can be proactive and kind of, eliminate certain things. You can eliminate the plurals, because remember, in negative keywords, there's no broad match. It's called broad match, but it doesn't work like regular broad match. It's always exact in the sense that, if it's bathing and baths, those are 2 keywords, or big and bigger, those are 2 keywords. Shoe and shoes, those are 2 separate keywords. And so you've really got to watch out for, plurals, and then of course typos. It's hard to catch the typos and misspellings, but that's kind of, you learn that from your search queries, and so it can be time consuming creating these lists, but there's different ways to find those things. We got abbreviations, of course. Somebody might say miscellaneous, they do MISC or something like that. Adverbs, misspellings, accents. So if you have cafe with no accent and cafe with an accent, those are 2 entirely separate keywords, and you need 2 entirely separate negatives. So you're going to have to watch out for those things, because it's not going to catch the accents. Google sees those as 2 entirely separate keywords. Stemming, of course, that's the most common one, where you see ER, ING. Stemming is like the root of the word, and then all the different things, different type of words that you can make out of that one word. So you've got to, you can use a thesaurus. Those are very useful. Dictionaries are very good to get those kind of information. And another thing I want to mention later is you can also, there's lots of lists on the internet. Doing research for lists can really help you find, find a list of all of the stemming keywords for this word, and that'll help you build your keyword list. Function words, you got conjunctions like and but, that kind of thing. Prepositions, in and out, those kind of things. Pronouns, he, she, and it. I never can remember what these things are. Modals are could and would, and then hedge words are like be, might, will, and there's function words like the and that. So if you're, especially nowadays, even with exact match, you've got to do that. So it really helps with trying to, if you want to create a truly exact match keyword, you've got to build a negative keyword for that. And using these type of techniques, word forms, you can get rid of the and that if that's not in your keyword. And of course, word order. So if you want to bid only on red shoes and not shoes red, you put shoes red as a negative phrase match. And there's just, it's just doing the research, like I said before. You got to build these keyword lists, and it'll save you so much money in the long run and time, to do that. Negative keyword lists. A lot of people aren't taking advantage of this. And one of the things I noticed, and one of the things I learned, somebody, I can't remember who taught me this, but to use negative keyword lists, even if you have a single campaign, because you don't know in the future, you might have more campaigns, and you'll have to copy and create a new keyword list. And a keyword list is, basically, instead of attaching it to the campaign or the ad group level, you're creating it at either at the account level or at your MCC level, which I have a whole bunch of clients that do the exact same thing. So I created a negative keyword list at my MCC level. And so I can just attach that to each new client or all of my clients. And if I want to add, and I noticed that a negative keyword I found in one of them, well, it's good for all of them. So I'm going to go add it to all of them. So that can be very helpful when you have multiple clients in the same industry. And also it can help to create multiple lists for organizational purposes. Like sometimes I will create one just for competitors. So like maybe one day I might want to do a test and remove the competitors. And I don't have to go find all the competitors in my big long list. I can actually just say, remove the competitor list or remove this list. Or you can even have seasonal lists. So let's say you're adding and removing lists based on season, and you can actually automate that using scripts. Keyword lists are very helpful for organizing. You can create silos, and you can have different groups of keyword lists as opposed to just having them all in one big long thing. And of course, the biggest part of lists is that you don't have to add it to every campaign. We don't have keyword lists at the ad group level. I wish we did. That would be so helpful. Because sometimes I will want one ad group to show up for a keyword, but it could show up in 5 other ad groups, and I have to go add that negative to 5 more ad groups. So it would be so nice to have ad group level keyword lists. So just create multiple ones. That really helps a lot. So just negative keywords, like we talked before, you have the MCC, you have the account, campaign, and then ad groups. Well, actually, you don't have MCC except for only through lists. MC and account are only through lists. The campaign and the ad group level are actually assigned to the campaign and the ad group. We have exact, phrase, and broad. So these don't mean the same thing as they do when you're targeting keywords. So exact is similar in the way that it's definitely exact. So if you put red shoes, it will not show up for red shoes, and that's the only one it's not going to show up for. If you do broad, what it means is that there can be in any order. So red shoes, shoes red, it works. Or it can be red, in the end, in the middle. So it doesn't matter the order or the position or anything. It can literally be anywhere in there. So if you have a 2-word phrase that you're like adding like red shoes, you want to make sure that that you understand that it could be anywhere in that, in any order, at any position. So if you want to make sure that red shoes has to be together, then that's when you use the phrase match. And then the order, it doesn't affect the order. So one of the things that's interesting about negative keywords, we talked about how you have to create like cafe with the accent, without the accent. It becomes more difficult when creating negative keywords because there's some rules. You could put an ampersand in your negative keyword. You can put an accent mark, of course, and then you can put an asterisk. But you can also use the plus symbol, but it doesn't always work. So if you do red plus shoes, it'll ignore it. But if you do C++, it figures it out. So there's a little bit of ambiguity there. All other non-characters are going to be ignored. So if you put a pound sign or an @ symbol, it's like it's not there. So if you do @red and then you do red, those are literally identical keywords, negative keywords. It won't even let you create them if you use certain ones like this. I guess that was a bad example. So you can't, actually pound sign does work. Right. So you can, if you create a negative keyword with one of these symbols, the comma, the pound sign, or not pound sign, exclamation mark, @ symbol, %, caret, parentheses, equals, brackets, what are the other ones? Semicolon, dash, what is that one? Oh, hyphen, and then the left, right symbol, question mark, and backslash and pipe symbol. If you use any of those, it just won't let you save it. Oh. It will be ignored. You can put it in there, but it will be ignored. Google will treat it like it's not in there. And this is interesting. I hadn't really thought much about this, but there's specific things that you can do in Google, and I use these all the time when I'm doing research, and it's not uncommon to use these, or at least in our industry. If I want to, like if I have a client's website and I'm trying to find a landing page for certain things, I'll just do site, domain.com, and then the keyword, and I'll find the landing page for that instead of having to search through it. So those things are ignored. So if you put site : www.example.com, red shoes, Google only sees red shoes. They just ignore everything before that. Or an and. Or red shoes is the same thing as red shoes. So it will ignore that, which makes it difficult sometimes. Minus red shoes. So when you're creating a negative keyword, sometimes you put a negative in front of it to create the negative keyword. But when you actually put it into the keyword, like red space dash shoes, Google just sees that as red. They'll just ignore it. And so those are helpful things to know. Because one of the things I've noticed, I'll see back when people were using modified broad, you would see a lot of negative keywords that they would just put the modified broad keyword in there. So it would be plus red plus shoes, which that actually works, but it's a waste of time if you're also then going to put red shoes in there. So you'd have duplicates. And it bothers me to see that in there. I just, even though it's ignored, it really just bothers me to see the plus symbols in there. And this is a really important one. It doesn't come up real often, but no matter what you have in there, use one word, any negative keyword you have, if they type in 17 words, that 17th word is ignored. You literally cannot block that 17th word. I mean, if it's a 17-word phrase and it's in the beginning of it, or anything in the 1 through 16 words, it works fine. But, if you're blocking red or used, and the very last word, the 17th word is used, your negatives don't work. It's a very rare situation. It doesn't come up. But makes it difficult to block long things sometimes. But it's a very unique oddball situation. As I said before, negative keywords just do not have variants. So you've got to add every single negative keywords, even the misspellings and all those things I mentioned before. So this is something I've only run into once. somebody came in and they were doing, like we said before, the exact matches, and they had a lot of negative keywords. It took forever to download it, and to open it in Excel, it was so many. It was ridiculous. And it wasn't even that big of an account. It wasn't like Target or something. It was, a medium-sized company. They didn't have a giant budget. There were, maybe a few thousand a month or something, less than 10,000 a month. And they just went nuts. And so we ran into the issues. You're only allowed 1 million campaign targeting items per account. And that means negative keywords and positive keywords. Anything that you've added to target 1 million in the entire account. If you need 1,000,001, you got to create a new account. So with the negative keyword list, now I talked about creating multiple ones. That can be difficult with some of the limitations. So it just depends on your account. You can only have 20 shared negative keyword lists per account. You can have more at your MCC level, which would actually get around that. You can only have 5,000 keywords per negative keyword list. So your negative keyword list can only be 5,000. As you see here, you can only have 10,000 negative keywords per campaign. So if you have 10,000 keywords in your campaign or 5,000 there, and you put 6,000 in your negative keyword list, some of them aren't going to be, they're not all going to work. And I haven't figured out exactly which ones it doesn't use, what order, by they're added or whatever. So it's just something you got to keep down. And if you're using the techniques I'm talking about, you're never going to run into that. You only run into this when you're doing, tons and tons of exact matches, which I said before is a waste of time. And it's only 5,000. It's actually even less for display and video. But yeah, it's definitely something to watch out for. I mean, it doesn't come up often, but if you get a new client or you get a new job or somewhere and you see, hundreds of thousands of negative keywords, you're like, well, good chunk of these aren't doing anything. Finding negatives. As we talked before, being proactive, creating negative keyword lists. What you can find pre-made negative PPC negative keyword lists online. You can just search Google for negative keyword lists or common keyword lists. You can find a list of swear words. You can go, find George Carlin's list or whatever. You can, there's just so many different places that have lists. And some of them are specifically made for PPC. Like you might find an industry specific one, like somebody who works specifically in autos or whatever. And they've compiled a nice list that they've worked on for you already, and you don't have to worry about so much. But as I said before, make sure you read it. Don't just download something and put it in there. Look at them, make sure they make sense for you. Google Keyword Planner, of course, that can help a lot. You go to the Keyword Planner, you type in, the keyword, the root keyword, or you can even put in a domain name of your competitor or your website, and it'll come up with a bunch of suggested keywords. That's really great for building ad groups and stuff as well, but it's also good for finding negatives because it'll show you, it'll suggest keywords for you, and you're like, oh, I don't like that, and so you can add that to your negatives. Wikipedia is very useful. Like I have a list of states, a list of cities, a list of zip codes sometimes for real estate. Wikipedia has tons and tons of great lists, and you can use those and put them into Excel and make sure, as I said before, make sure you look at them and make sure they make sense. Real estate websites can be very useful. Some of these real estate websites have really good SEO and they've created really great content. And so you can kind of go find out about a certain area. You can find things that you don't want to show up for. Like a good example, I posted it on one of the PPC groups in Facebook the other day. I bought a house recently and I'm selling a house, and I was doing some research to find out for my neighborhood. So I typed in Cottage Grove homes for sale. Well, I didn't realize there's a Cottage Grove, Minnesota. I live in Houston. And so I see ads for that. What they should do is they should be blocking Cottage Grove in my area, in the Houston area, so that They wasted money on a click. They actually called me up because I filled out a form before I realized that it was Minnesota, because I wanted to ask him a question to see if maybe I could pay to have my listing at the top of their list, because they're doing pay-per-click. I might as well get on there. And so they just wasted their time and money on me when they shouldn't have. So it's a good idea to find out, if you're bidding on Cottage Grove, Minnesota, find out, is there another Cottage Grove somewhere else? Because a lot of times there's cities and neighborhoods and areas that share names. So it really helps to do that. Well, actually, in that particular situation, you wouldn't use a negative keyword, because obviously you want Cottage Grove. But what you would do is that you would basically remove Houston. I mean, you might end up throwing the baby out with the bathwater, and you might want to test it, because maybe someone who lives in Houston wants to move to Cottage Grove, Minnesota. So, it's, sometimes you're damned if you do and damned if you don't. It's just something you've got to test and find out. I mean, you can go and type in cottage in your search queries and see how often it comes up. And maybe you even find out that you don't want to do that anymore. That you're trying to do negative keyword research, and you find out that your positive keywords aren't very good. It can go both ways. Industry websites, like a manufacturer or an organization for, a realtor organization, or any kind of organization, they'll have websites with lots of lists and stuff as well. And of course, there's the old Rush, Oz, SpyFu. Y'all probably know some other ones, I'm sure. There's just different pay-per-click. We use SEMrush at our business, and that's very helpful. Another thing is a thing called an Ngram report, and this is I use these daily, well, weekly. They're very useful. What an Ngram is, so they'll go. The tool will go and look at every single search query that you have, and then it's kind of like a cloud. You remember the clouds? So you would see every time that the word red was ever in a search query, regardless of how long or whatever it was. Here are the stats: how many clicks, impressions, CTR, conversion rate, conversion, CTR, all those different, any performance stat that you can think of, or conversion stat, it'll show that to you. You can set the columns the way you want to, and you can find out, wow, every single time that this word was ever in any search query, it never got a conversion in the last year. So I'm going to make that a negative. And so it's a really great tool. We use Adelisis, which is a really great tool for that has a built-in Ngram tool into it, and also has many other features. And of course, there's Optimizer, which they're very similar products. They do mostly the same thing. I just like Adelisis a lot because I know the owner, and he's really good at what he does. Brad Geddes is the guy who does that, if you've ever heard of him. And there's actually a Google Ads script. It came out in, I want to say 2005, and it stopped working about a year ago. And what it'll do is you create somebody fixed it. That's what I meant to say. And if you can go to that URL, or you can scan that, and you can download the script and just copy and paste it. You have to create a Google Docs, and then you copy and paste. There's a few little settings there at the very top. You just copy and paste the Google Docs URL, and you paste it into the script, and you schedule it to run, and it'll just populate that spreadsheet, the Google Docs, or Google Sheets, I guess actually is the term, in your Google Sheets, and you can go through and get all that data. And that's free. These actually cost money, like a percentage of your account kind of stuff. The one on the bottom is free and really nice. So I use Adelisis for other reasons. Otherwise, I would just use that. Of course, when I started using Adelisis, this was still broken, but I finally found somebody who went and fixed it. So it's very nice. And when you go to that link, he talks about the original article from Search Engine Land, which it's very, very useful. And that's really the end of that. I guess we can go and start doing some questions.
Okay. Yes.
What is the approach towards non-branded keywords, not SEM?
The
question was, what is the approach to non-branded keywords, not just SEM?
I don't really understand.
Non-branded. Wait, is there a different approach for non-branded keywords versus branded keywords? Is that,
Yeah, I mean, it's different for every client. I usually sequester them and put them in their own campaign. There's a lot of different reasons for creating different campaigns, and I usually try to not create new campaigns. I try to keep as much stuff in a single campaign as possible, because I've seen accounts. I saw one account that had 1,000 different campaigns. It was like one keyword per campaign. It was weird. So I try to keep them down. If I don't create a new campaign unless I got a really good reason for it, and that's one of them is for branding and non-branding, and so that helps out a lot.
okay, we got a question here.
Mine's for just the negative keywords. So based on negative keywords, one thing that I'm finding is Google just wants more money. So
Yeah.
there's like, hey, broad match it. So you open up the floodgates, I would say, and then after that, it's just like a huge stream of one impression, one click search terms. So I'm finding my job is just becoming, just like you said, it's like now it's a never ending sea of one click search terms where I now have to determine the validity of that, not even based on conversion data, right? So if they converted, sure, that's an easy like place to see. But now, do you still have a lot of phrase in the exact match campaigns in a lot of your clients?
It is rare. I rarely ever use exact match. I was all about modified broad before that, but now it's mostly about phrase match now, because exact match is practically not exact anymore. But there are situations where I had a client that did. They sold clothing, army surplus is what they were. They sold army surplus. And I found that the exact match of army surplus, it works really well on high traffic keywords. So I would never do an exact match for something that got 1 click a day or 10 impressions a day or something like that. You really want to save the exact match for things that are very high traffic and, where you get maybe 30 or 40 clicks a day. And that way, and I only use exact match when it makes sense and it's profitable to use exact match, because I don't know if y'all have noticed this or not. So let's say you create an exact match ad group, and then you have the same exact ad group, but it's phrase match, and you have the negatives so that you don't cross pollinate. And you find that from the past, when you had it all in one phrase match, you're paying more now for the exact match. So Google is somewhat penalizing you. So I would not create the exact match unless it made sense to do that. Because otherwise the phrase match will catch that exact match and catch it cheaper many times.
Next question. Anyone?
Yeah. Now that we're being forced to switch to Performance Max campaigns, how is this going to help or hurt us?
Well, I'm not a big fan of Performance Max. So we're being, and I'm still, in 2019 at Gillies, I spoke on shopping, and so for me, Google Shopping, I'm still a big fan of the manual. I mean, I beat out Kohl's and Target and Amazon all the time because I'm using, campaign priority and negative keyword lists. You funnel the keywords around and you can beat them out because they're, the problem with automated bidding a lot of times is, if everyone's using it, well, who's going to win? We're all saying we only want the good clicks. Well, Google's got to decide who gets those. If things are all things are equal, and a lot of times, in the middle of the day, everybody's still got budget, everybody's got CPAs, and who gets it? Google doesn't know if it's a $10 CPA or a $100 CPA. They're just randomly passing them out. It's to some extent, and so I use manual in that situation. There is a reason for PMax because there's certain things that only PMax can do. So it's just, part of life, doing Google ads, you're constantly, they're trying really hard to get us to quit, and so
it's constant is change.
Yeah.
Any other questions? Oh, surely we got a couple more. One more.
Please explain the difference between a
In negatives?
Just go in general. It's a virtual question. So
Oh, okay. So with exact match, when you're targeting, not the negative side of things, exact match tries to keep it close to. So like if you do exact match and phrase match, to some extent they do the same thing, but the exact match isn't going to do it. Isn't going to be as broad in that sense. So because word order doesn't matter anymore. Nothing matters anymore with close variants. So you will notice if you do some testing, you'll find out that the phrase match will actually get a lot more traffic, and the exact match will have a little bit less wasted. But I'm like I said before, I create the exacts to if I want to do an exact, I will have a ad group level negative set up for that using the stemming and all those different things, the and but, and make sure that only that keyword is exact. So you can still do exact, but it's a lot of work. When it comes to negative keywords, exact means, well, what it says, it's the same, it works the same way, saying in the sense, but it's exact. It's those two words, like red shoes, it's always going to get rid of red shoes and nothing else. And then phrase match, the order can change. So the order matters in phrase match. So if it's red shoes, it'll always be in that particular order. When you do broad, then it could be red shoes anywhere.
oh, and one more question. This will be unfortunately our last question, but
How much do audiences matter in your paid search campaigns? Like when you apply an audience,
Oh,
90-day visitor versus.
it's very important. I use audiences constantly. And one of the things a lot of people don't know with audiences, when you're using automated bidding, if you have a $10 CPA, doing a bid percentage will change that CPA by that percentage up or down. If you're using manual, of course, it just changes the bid up and down. And you can use a lot of the same techniques I talked about with audiences. Monitor them, see how they're doing. You could exclude them. I might start off with all the higher levels first, and if I find that the high level audience is doing really well, then I'll split it into the sub audiences and see which one is doing well. Or you can just go add them all. It's just it can be a little bit of work, but it's very profitable to using different kinds of audiences. Of course, custom audiences, and there's just so many. It's very, very important. I mean, we found one campaign that just we have this one audience just kills. And so we just only target that audience and spend as much money as humanly possible because it's just a really, really good audience.
okay. I think we're out of time. So David will be around if you have any questions.
Yeah.
I'm sure he'll be around to answer them. And I hope you have a great day as you go on to your next session.
Yeah, I got one announcement. If you have a parking ticket, you need to get it in the bucket in the main room because